Did you ever watch movies or any movies from the 80s and 90s concerning like high school culture, American high school culture? If you did, you would have noticed a common thread. There was the culture or the idea of cliques, friend cliques. Kids in American high schools would congregate in friend cliques that would be associated with their best interests or what their value systems or what they were all about. So basically you had like the jocks who were all really sporty and athletic, and then you had the nerds who were, maybe they look like me, and they were deep into their studies and doing well at school and that kind of thing. Then you had like various different other people, and then you would have a group of girls who were called the cool girls. You could probably also have cool guys, but the cool girls. And the cool girls were pretty particular. This clique of girls, and this idea, this group of girls were usually very fashionable. They were well-traveled. They came from well-to-do families, or at least pretty middle-class families, and they were well-rounded, probably a little bit good at academics, but they do a bit of sport, and they were almost always into cheerleading, right? With supporting the guys who were playing whatever sport. And there was usually a ringleader. The ringleader would, in the movies, they're generally depicted as quite manipulative. They're smart girls, but they don't go all out for academics. No. Consistently throughout the theme or the trope, to go all out academically as a smart, cool girl is the wrong move. You need to spread out your energies and your efforts equally amongst your aesthetic appeal, the way you appear to the world, how pretty you are, how you put yourself together, what kind of clothes you're wearing, is everything up to date, is it trendy, is it fashionable? But you must not appear too forward. You must appeal to people, you must appeal to boys and men, absolutely, this is very, very important, but you must not be gagging for it. You mustn't be like begging for it or anything. No, it's almost like I'm going to come back to the honeypot appeal. Like it's like she attracts them. So there's a ringleader, and because of who she is, the friends that she makes become influenced by her, or they influence each other, and they sort of reinforce each other's actions, and then they become a cool girl group, basically. I'm not conflating or confusing this with the group that I knew at school. No, different deal there. But in the movies, in American movies, the cool girl group is also the group that is dating. If you look at the other girls, they're kind of maybe looking a little hapless or a little lost or a little unsure of themselves, not confident, and so on and so forth, right? The cool girl group always has their act together. They know exactly what they're doing. They know what to say, what to do, what to wear. They are worldly. They know what they're doing, or at least their ringleader knows what she is doing. Okay, and they're also the group to first be dating boys, and because of this, probably the first in their circle and in their environment to be trying and experiencing certain things behind closed doors, or sexually, so to speak. Yeah. And this is a cultural trope or category that is very recognizable, especially in movies of the 80s and 90s. I'm not sure about nowadays. I think things have become more blended, but definitely at that time it was true. In particular, there were two particular movies about this particular kind of group of girlfriends or clique. And the two movies were Mean Girls, which came out in 2004, I think. And then there was also Heathers, which was 1989. And these two movies showed this clique in this kind of category of friend group in clear, like, stereotypical fashion. One point to note, though, is that both the girl groups in both of these movies were kind of mean to each other, hence the term mean girls. For instance, there's a lot of manipulation, cattiness, going behind each other's backs, no like sisterhood rule, no like looking out for each other or altruistic feeling of sisterhood, nothing like that. It was each girl for herself, like each man for himself, but each girl for herself in a very Machiavellian fashion. And it was really highlighted or focused upon that each girl, though she had friends, was kind of on her own in her head. Like, even though she had friends, she had to constantly be on the lookout for what they could do to her, actually, or what they could say to others about her, or how they could turn against her. However, if you look at boys and the way they grow up, there's none of this kind of thing there. None of this. I do, however, think it's cultural. Definitely cultural. It's encouraged. It's conditioned. It is not a natural tendency that girls naturally have to be catty and bitchy towards each other and take each other down just for the focus of men. Like, if you look at the animal world, no. And if you look in many other different cultures around the world, especially in any matriarchal society or society where women and men, there's no like disparity there. There's none of this crap. And these were very typical of the kind of movie that I'm referring to. And it was kind of true in the schools that I attended to. And I'm going to put this down to the fact that South Africa was very heavily influenced by American culture. During the 70s and the 80s, my country had sanctions against us. The world sanctioned us, much like Russia is being sanctioned at the moment. We had sanctions against us because we were a racist country. We were at the time, sure. And not all people, but the country, the policies, that kind of thing. And because of these sanctions, many countries did not, we weren't trading with those countries, or they wouldn't trade with us. And this included cultural material, entertainment material, like movies, TV series, music, and so on and so forth. However, America never did that. America never accepted these sanctions and continued to do business with us, to trade with us throughout the whole period. And so this is why if you meet South Africans, they will probably have more of especially from my era, they'll probably, Generation X, they'll probably definitely have more of an American influence on things. They'll like American music, American songs, movies, and so on and so forth. That's why. Anyway, I noticed in our schools we had similar setups with the cliques, the friend groups, and I always thought that this was normal. I always thought that this was normal. But then I started working abroad and I became a teacher, teaching English to foreign language learners. And I entered the schools in other countries, in Thailand, in China. And I saw for the first time that the clique system was not worldwide. It was not worldwide. It is not that way in Asia. In Thailand and in China, no way. In Thailand especially, I worked at girls' schools, I worked at co-eds. Everybody was friends with everybody. The beautiful kids did not only hang out with other beautiful kids. There was a mix of this nerdy guy, that, you know, the overweight kiddo that's always sitting in a corner. There was a mix of everybody. Everybody was all mixed up. And that was a culture that was uninfluenced by American movies from that era. So it's not normal, actually. It's not always that way. Kids do form cliques and friend groups. They definitely do, but it is not based specifically on any particular trope or a particular category, like, you know, only sports guys, or only guys that work with computers, or only the pretty girls that hang out in the bathroom endlessly, kind of thing. It really is. It was a big wake up. It was a kind of a shock to me how that system absolutely did not carry through to all schools. And then this had me thinking, whoa, maybe ours was systemic. Maybe it was created in some way through cultural influence, through implanted, or through plants, you know, planted influences. Like, like the term influencer. We would say that somebody, like, who's doing this, somebody like who's doing this on YouTube to bring an idea across to others, you would call them an influencer. But back in the 80s and 90s, we didn't have the internet, and we didn't have the internet. And so the idea of like influencer, what's that? But it could really be thought of as if you trained a certain kid a certain way, or conditioned them in a certain way, and you outfitted them nicely so that they could be implanted into a school to sort of influence things. They could definitely be called an influencer in that sphere, in that circle. It's very kind of interesting to think about it, but if you think about it, right? If the powers that be wanted to sway the thoughts and actions of children, you might do it through the teachers, right? But it'd also be a very good idea to have a few kids in there to sort of shift and sway the flow every now and then, right? Is it that far-fetched? I could also go one step further and say, like, this whole, like, if this is systemic, if it is a system that's input into societies in the world to influence or corrupt, like, the youth or whatever, it's very effective. And what it especially does for women, or for the females of the gender, is that it divides them. If women and girls grow up believing that this system is true and right and just the way things are, they're going to be divided from teenagehood. In their childhoods, they're going to be best friends, they're going to rely on each other, they're going to be tag team pals, that kind of thing. And once they hit teenagehood and they hit puberty, if they believe this conditioning, they will believe that it's each woman for herself, and they are all secretly in competition with each other, secretly. And on the other side, on the men's side, on the male side, they tend to then reduce the idea of women to what they can get out of them, what they can get up to with them. Not really as a human being, but more of a facility, shall we say. A facility. So basically, it's a system of divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. If all women and all girls, if all women feel like they're ultimately on their own and they don't have a backup group or backup people, backup members to support them in hard times, they're basically just going to be, on their own trying to find the best man in their arena or in their environment to support them, because they don't trust the idea that you can trust a girl or you can trust another female. I think this is changing these days, and thank God for that. Thank God for that. But during the 80s and the 90s, maybe early 2000s too, it was definitely like, she's my friend, but I could also turn on her. I could also turn on her. And it's so sad. And it's not biologically normal. Look in the animal kingdom, they don't do that. And in other cultures that are not Western or first world across the earth, they don't all do that. Which brings into question, why do we call the countries that are first world at the moment, or termed or titled first world, why do we call them that way? When in many areas they're really not. Big question, no? Imagine what a totally different place the world would be if women didn't see each other as competition. I think it's happening now. I think it is changing, and I'm grateful. I'm really, really grateful for that. And I think the younger generation has clocked this. You younger generations, thank God for you. You're able to see this and call out the BS. Because imagine the alternative, right? Like a world where each and every woman cannot trust the other one. And they're all just vying and begging for attention and devotion from whatever man they've chosen, whatever it is, whoever he is. But then look at the idea of a world where women and females could totally trust each other. Wouldn't we all just be able to breathe a lot easier? Like, I've got your back, you've got my back. We're looking out for each other. I think it is happening, though. I think it is happening. Thank God for that.